trade tables, and let's get ready to take off with the unanimous decision. And tonight, hey guys, this is our first unanimous decision actual victory we've had that I've been doing the post games for. So the Dayton Flyers improved to 17-3 on the season with the 83-61 win over the George Washington Revolutionaries. I guess that's their new name. That's what we're going with. At the start of this game, man, it had to be a bounce back. This is how the Dayton Flyers had to attack this game, how they had to approach this game, and it looked like they were just doing the same old stuff that didn't work against Richmond, taking bad shots, giving up open ones. They were not getting the ball inside to Duran. And then all of a sudden, flip switched, and the Dayton Flyers just took command of this game, really, and I was really impressed with multiple guys tonight. When you talk about Nate Santos, 17 points in the first half. Duran Holmes, it felt like a kind of a quiet 25. I mean, he had his handprints all over this game, but it's not like, it took him a little bit to get going, and then from then on, he was nasty. Duran Holmes, 25 points. Let's get into this game recap. A big win for Dayton, 7-1 in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Still game behind the Richmond Spiders, obviously, and second place, but a good bounce back from this Dayton team. For the Dayton Flyers, they shot the ball tremendously well from 3, 12 of 24, so a big improvement from what we saw on Saturday. Duran Holmes led all scorers with 25 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and the crazy part is he could have had a triple-double. I tweeted this too, but a lot of times he was getting double teamed in the post, and he had to toss it out to some open shooters, and guys just weren't able to knock down 10 of those shots that he ended up kicking out. But he had 4 assists, so I really like to see that from Duran, just making sure he can facilitate with that double team, but also oppose his will down low when they decided not to double, or sometimes he's just too good. And that's what you get from a Wooden Award watch list candidate in Duran Holmes. He was great. And, by the way, they just announced that today. So getting some respect that he deserves. Look, great bounce-back game from Duran. And, so down the line, 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists from Nate Santos. And, look, he was killing it in that first half. They held him scoreless in the second half. But this is what we like to see from Nate Santos, and we'll end up talking about that in a little bit. You see it on the talking points. But he was attacking and he was aggressive, but he was also letting the game come to him and getting those open looks and knocking them down when Duran was passing out of the post, or just guys set Nate Santos up for success tonight, and he didn't try to force it. He was great. Javon Bennett, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Thought he did a great job on James Bishop. I thought maybe they would put Enoch on James Bishop a little more, just because he's a little bit taller. But obviously they went with Javon, and he played really well. Enoch, obviously we talk about what Enoch does for this Dayton team. He creates winning plays. And tonight, I think he did a good job of that. 3 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and just 1 turnover on the night for Enoch. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well. Didn't shoot it much. 1 for 4 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. And then Kobe Elvis, we got guard play as well on this talking points. 0 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, held scoreless. So Kobe Elvis not making too much of an impact on this game, but he didn't really need to, because you see the 4 and the 5 spot, and then Kobe Brea, obviously. Talk about Fuego, who was just lights out. I mean, he was great. He had 17 points, 5 of 9 from the 3, and he's shooting 48% from 3 on the year. He's number 1 amongst all shooters in Division I college basketball that qualify for those attempts. And look, Kobe Brea might be one of the best shooters I've ever watched in a Dayton uniform. And when he gets the ball beyond the arc and he has just a little bit of space, you hope, and you honestly, you don't even hope, you expect it to go in. You expect it to go in with the shooter like Kobe Brea. So we got some walk-on minutes, okay? I was kind of worried they might give up a run and maybe decrease our net ranking because George Washington may score more, but they held their own, and the Dayton Flyers get a 22-point win. Some good minutes from Isaac Jack. Defending, I think he did well. look, I'll say this about George Washington. We'll get into their kind of whatever that was or whatever that showing was from George Washington. Very out of character for that team. But Darren Buchanan is a dog. Their freshman forward, what did he have tonight? Darren Buchanan, 13 points, 3 turnovers, but 8 rebounds and 2 assists. He was really the only consistent scorer tonight from them. I know James Bishop had 10 points, but, hey, that's a guy who's averaging around 20. So he shot 2 of 12. Look, this is what the Dayton Flyers' identity is on defense. When you have Enoch Cheeks and Javon Bennett, it's basically off night for the opposing team's guards. Like last Saturday, even though Jordan King got to the line a lot, I thought he was definitely flopping, getting a lot of calls. But even he was held under his scoring average of like 17, and he had, 13 points? And he got some garbage time free throws. So this is what the Dayton Flyers' identity is on defense, is they're going to take your best player out of the game if it's at the guard position. And you got to look to other guys to score and try to make up for that. But obviously George Washington didn't have the weapons, didn't have the personnel to do that, and the Dayton Flyers get a big win. Once again, 83-61. I'm Chris King once again, and you're just listening to the Cream City Crossover Media Group. But the unanimous decision. We do this post-game show for pretty much every Dayton Flyers game, but also the Milwaukee Bucks post-game show, the Cream City Crossover, that's the bread and butter, baby. This is a big shout-out to my guys, Trey Crosby III and John Tyus. We do 97.3 The Game FM. It's a radio station out of Milwaukee, and that's kind of how we started this thing, but obviously, I got to show love to my Dayton family, my Dayton community, and I appreciate you guys, just giving me the opportunity to do this and shed some light on the 21st ranked team in the country. Look, didn't know where the Dayton Flyers would be ranked ahead of this game. Monday they could have dropped a ton of good teams that ended up winning behind them, but they got jumped. But they fell down to just 21. Their net ranking only dropped 2 spots, and look, they only dropped 2 spots in KenPom too. So it's like, if there was one game to lose in the Atlantic 10, it was that one at Richmond. And by no means do I think that Richmond team is better than this Dayton team. But, it happens. And you got to make sure it doesn't happen again when you go on the road to some of these tougher teams, or tougher environments, I'll say, when you talk about St. Louis and VCU and some of those like lesser quality losses that you could potentially face. And we'll get to the look around in the Atlantic 10. Saw a big score, big comeback in the Atlantic 10, the only other game I think that went on during the Dayton game. So that's some big stuff. Stick around and be glad to take you through it. So let's get into Kobe Brea and what he was able to do tonight. I mean, I thought against Richmond he had a tough time getting looks and creating looks for himself. Tonight that was not the issue. Kobe Brea was scoring off the dribble. He was beating guys when they would set screens off ball. He was beating them around the perimeter and knocking down open shots. And the guys were finding him. And that's what you need from Kobe Brea. I saw a lot of discourse on social media, on Twitter, on X, about whether Kobe Brea should get more minutes. And I'm all for it, especially when you see a performance like this from Kobe Elvis, who didn't really play well. I think there is a way for Kobe Brea to get into the starting lineup, especially when Javon Bennett's handling the ball like he does. I think both of those guys, Kobe Elvis, that is, and Javon Bennett are pretty much the same in facilitating. Like, I don't think either of them is better than one another. So maybe you do find some more minutes from Kobe just to provide that scoring punch at the beginning of the game and try to get out to some runs and try to make sure you're building and playing with the lead, because that's how you win basketball games, is playing with the lead. I know Richmond, it was 9-0 and we blew that one. But, so I think Kobe Brea, just an incredible performance from him, 5 of 9 from 3. And just not even the threes that he made. He was also out there, like, he shot that one from the logo and he turns around like an Obi Toppin-esque 3-ball, and he runs down the court. It was awesome to see. He's really shooting it confidently and showing that he's one of the best 3-point shooters in all of the country. I love it from Kobe Brea. And he's doing all this with, people were talking about titanium rods in his legs, because, yeah, it is. He had the surgery in the offseason to fix both legs, and it doesn't even look like that. So here's my thing about Mr. Fuego, and I think a lot of people could echo the same sentiment about Kobe Bryant, is the fact that he's at his best when he's creating off the dribble and scoring without the ball in his hands. So whether that be, we're running sets and setting down screens and back screens for him and he can get open, that's good. But we saw how it kind of hurt us and hurt his shot attempts against Richmond, because he was struggling. They were face guarding him the whole time. He was struggling, and he didn't really get the ball to try to create with his handle. And I think he has an underrated handle. He's a little slow with getting into his jumper, but it works. Like, you'll see Kobe Bryant come down the court and snatch somebody back, and they'll be shook, and he'll knock down the three just as easy as he does the catch and shoot. So this is a guy who can be an X factor in this team's success, and a guy who can really carry us towards championship ball, whether that be Atlantic 10 championship, Atlantic 10 regular season championship. If he's at his best, the Dayton Flyers are at their best, because as we saw in the Richmond game, this team kind of looks for answers when Deron Holmes is out of the game. Now, we haven't seen much of Deron getting into foul trouble or having a big that's really had an answer for him like Neil Quinn ended up having on Saturday, but it felt like once Deron was out, the guys were just looking at each other like, where do we go? What do we do here? And now we need somebody to step up and a guy who you can look to for scoring. I thought Kobe Bryant didn't have the best shot selection against Richmond, but he was feeling it, and he still ended up shooting 2 of 5 from the three. But the thing is, why is he only getting 5 threes? The offense has to kind of cater towards Kobe Bryant a little more when Deron is out of the game and they're kind of stagnant, because that's one of the better shot creators in college basketball if he consistently is able to score off the dribble. It's so crazy, because last year when Kobe was kind of up and down, obviously had the injuries, dealing with that, I wouldn't have expected this to be what he could provide, but it's consistent. It's on a nightly basis where Kobe Bryant is knocking down half of his attempts. And it's honestly, you love to have that trust as a fan to kind of know that when Kobe's out there, you're always 3 points away. You're always 3 points away. Or you're always 3 points ahead. So it's awesome to have a weapon like that. And I think as this season progresses and as guys start to fall off, or as guys start to have limited performances and they're not scoring the ball well, I think you're going to see more and more of Kobe Bryant. I heard maybe minutes restriction this season, but why he's on the bench. But I mean, look, if he can ramp that up, or if he can give us more minutes tonight, and we can figure out kind of the right plug and play with the lineups, with who you're going to have out there at the guard spot, then I think that could be really good for this team. Nate Santos, 17 points, and he actually had an and one that I thought he was more hype than the fans were in the arena. I mean, I love the energy that Nate plays with. Sometimes you find yourself scratching your head when Nate's out there and he's trying to force it, but tonight, by no means was he out there forcing it. 6 of 10, 3 of 4 from 3. In the first half, he was actually 6 for 8. 3 of 3 from the three-point line, 2 of 3 from the free throw line, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, Nate was doing it all. And this is what we saw in Charleston. The biggest thing I'm going to say with this Dayton team right now is the consistency. Everybody has to be playing at a consistent level for this Dayton team to maybe be a second weekend, maybe even, Elite Eight, Final Four type team. Obviously, don't want to get too ahead of, expectations and stuff like that, but this is who we have. This is our core of great players, and if they can all piece it together night in and night out, then this team is unstoppable. We saw it from Nate today. We saw it from Kobe Bryant today. We saw it from Deron today. We didn't see it from Kobe Elvis today. We didn't necessarily see it from Enoch Cheeks today. We didn't really see it from Javon Bennett. I mean, 3 of 10 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. So if everybody can be on the same page and clicking, yeah, obviously not everybody's going to have a great night or be in double figures every night. But if we can get to a point where there's no head scratchers in the lineup and guys that are taking bad shots and shooting us out of the game, then I think this team has a real shot at making a deep run. And that's also going to be the key to winning games in the Atlantic 10, because if you can show up consistently on the road against good teams in hostile environments, then you can beat anybody. And we saw it tonight. We saw it with Deron Holmes, because he's always going to bring what he brings. But in the rare chance that Deron Holmes does not, well, you've got some guys who can do it. And we obviously didn't see that on Saturday. But that's where I want to get at with this Dayton team, is that you don't have to look around for other guys to provide scoring punches when Deron's not having it. Or you don't have to look to Nate Santos to go get you 17 when Kobe, Elvis, Enoch Cheeks, and Javon Bennett are all on. So I think this Dayton team is really dangerous, and especially with the way Nate Santos played tonight. I mean, he was great rebounding. I thought the effort tonight out of Nate was a lot better. It looked like those guys had just woken up on Saturday. And, even though the energy was a little down tonight because it's kind of a bad team and you're expected to blow them out, they took care of business. And I think that's a product of everybody buying in and realizing that, look, Saturday was an anomaly. Hopefully they get it back in blood in the Atlantic 10 tournament, because I still hate the fact that we don't have a home-and-home with Richmond, the only team that may be able to beat us this year in the Atlantic 10. So, yeah, I mean, if everybody can get it going and keep buying into what the staff is asking for and what they know that they can do. I mean, we've seen great performances all across the board. Cincinnati, when you talk about Kobe Elvis getting in 25-plus, 14 free throws, knocking them all down, and Deron also getting 25-plus in that game. Like, this team can beat you in so many ways. It's just the one thing that can harm you is when Deron gets into foul trouble, or if he's just overmatched. And I don't want to say he's a worse player than Neil Quinn, because by no means is he worse. He just had a bad showing. Shots weren't falling, and they were in and out, shooting a lot of threes. And the officials that game were not allowing him to be aggressive. Tonight, I think we saw a little bit more of that when it comes to he's down there banging in the post and not taking anybody for not what's the word? He's not taking any shit. Yeah, there we go. He's not taking any shit from nobody. And tonight he did that. He did that. He imposed his will on Darren Buchanan. Whoever was out there trying to guard him, King Bola that was out there, fouled a lot. He had a couple personals. Darren Buchanan had 4. And Deron, he needs to recognize that if you're just going hard right at the big man, a lot of times you'll get the foul call, because we see it when Deron has to guard big men like that. Like, they'll call him for some chippy fouls. And Deron got a couple of those calls tonight, and look how it changes the momentum. It changed the game for sure. He had 11 in the first half, 14 in the second half, ended with 25 and 12. So double-double, back in that double-double column, and that's what he does. Let's get into this guard play. I want to talk about just the inconsistencies that we're seeing. I tweeted this earlier. Enoch Cheeks needs to step it up. I don't know if it's Anthony Grant's offense that is kind of having him play like a stalemate or whatever. He's just not being aggressive enough. And I think Enoch Cheeks obviously has showed that he can score the ball. Ohio State scrimmage, 15 points in the first half, 5 from 3. Obviously didn't create his shot. He was catching and shooting. But I don't think that's the player that Enoch Cheeks is. By no means do I think that. He has experience scoring at a high level. I mean, Horizon League, whatever, but 15 points a game is no slouch, especially he got 15 against us. I just don't know why that's too much of a stretch. Is it because he's expanding so much energy on the defensive end? Is it because he's looking to be a catch and shooter instead of trying to create offense? But I've seen flashes, guys. Like, I'm not just pulling this out of my butt. Like, I promise you, I know Enoch Cheeks can score at all 3 levels. Saw it in the Davidson game. Took a nice screen from Deron, knocked down a mid-range jumper. Getting to the rim. Now, he could shoot a lot better from the free throw line. I'll give him that. You got to shoot better as a guard from the free throw line. I don't know what percentage he's at, but seen a lot of missed free throws out of Enoch. But also, obviously, the 3-ball. He can score off the dribble with the 3-ball. So what I want to look for in Enoch is just to be more aggressive, because you're going to have those instances where everybody is looking at one guy to step it up when guys are having off nights, like a Kobe Elvis tonight, 0 of 6 from the field. Javon Bennett, 3 of 10, 1 of 4. So for Enoch Cheeks to only shoot 4 times, it kind of makes me think that, look, if we can get him more comfortable in this offense, now I'm not going to you can't really bank on that because, it's just it's tough to kind of bank on that with AG's offense, because a lot of times you're getting the ball late in the shot clock and you've got to force something. But I want to see more action from Enoch Cheeks. I'd like to see some more screen and rolls with Isaac Jack and with Deron Holmes, because Enoch's not a bad passer. Sometimes he can be a little bit out of control, but I think that definitely Enoch could provide a scoring punch more so than he already is. And if he figures that out, that could be another X factor as to why we can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Kobe Elvis, let's talk about this. So Kobe Elvis, right, tonight, 0 of 6 from the floor. Didn't shoot it all that well. Didn't really like some of the shots he took. 3 of 10 versus Richmond, 4 of 11 against LaSalle, 2 of 4 versus Rhode Island, and 2 of 7, 0 for 2 versus Duquesne, 2 of 7, that is, versus St. Louis. So it's been a rough stretch for Kobe Elvis. And I promise you guys, like, Kobe Elvis is a volume scorer, and he needs to see the ball go in for multiple shots or multiple games for him to really turn it on. And that could be a problem with this Dayton team, because like during the first half of the season, he didn't shoot well at all, and we saw Dayton unfortunately reap the benefits, or the opponents reap the benefits of that. When you talk about the Northwestern loss, he shot 0 for 5, lost by 5. 0 for 6 versus Houston. Yeah, they have some great guards, but you lose that game by 14, and you just can't have that. You would like to see Kobe get a little more comfortable in this offense. Now, I know he had a little bit of an injury. I think it was the St. Louis game. Oh no, that was UMass. So, if that's kind of where he regressed. Actually, if you look at the numbers, he shot 7 of 12 the night or the game before against Davidson. So that's the thing. If Kobe Elvis can get back into rhythm and find his shot, find his groove, not force anything, because a lot of the things I see from Kobe Elvis are forced. That may be because of the shot clock. Once again, we play at a slow pace, one of the slowest in the country. But if Kobe Elvis can really get it going, this team is also dangerous in the sense that you've got another guard who can put it on. Any guard in the A-10, they can score with the best of them. And I trust Kobe. I do. I really do. And sometimes the scoring isn't needed because we've got guys stepping up. But I do think it would benefit the Dayton Flyers a lot more if he can find some sort of consistency in there. I think a lot of his drives where he's in the pick and roll and he's going up for shots, I think they're sometimes are prayers, and you never want to see that from a guard, because it's kind of like you throw something up hoping for a foul baiting, whatever you want to call it, and all of a sudden there's a rebound and they're going the other way. So that's where I'm at with the guard play. Javon Bennett, I think he's been huge just defensively. Tonight, obviously, he shot 3 of 10, but I think what he does on the defensive end and the facilitating from him was good tonight as well, 3 assists. So he did a good job giving the extra pass, giving the extra one. And obviously, he drove to the rim a lot, didn't necessarily finish, but Deron was there to clean it up. And so that's where I'm at with guard play. I think, obviously, this is who we are. These are the guards we have. And obviously, Kobe Bryant, maybe he can get in there more minutes, whatever. But these are the guards we have. Gabe Hutton says, good bounce-back win. For sure. I'm super – no complaints from me on this game tonight. Obviously, a little bit of things that we could work on and figure out in terms of guys scoring. Petrus out there tonight. Darren Buchanan made quick work of him. Came in right away, beat him off the dribble, got an and one. So I think defensively Petrus could use some work, but I think offensively down the line, like in years to come, when he's got more of a bigger role and he's able to put some more weight on him, I think he can be a really good player for this Dayton team. But right now you're just not seeing it on the defensive end, so maybe a little less of Petrus. It sucks because when you look top to bottom on this Dayton team, you really got only 7 guys, maybe 8 guys that you're gonna consistently play. But what I think it does for this Dayton team is it prepares them for games where guys are gonna have to play maybe 40 minutes. The Atlantic 10 tournament, March Madness. Guys aren't going 10 deep in March Madness unless there's an injury or somebody's cramping up. So this does prepare this Dayton team to win games in March. And so I think that's good from Coach Anthony Grant, kind of making sure his guys are fresh and always ready to play big minutes. So don't know how much we're going to see Petrus in the future or maybe down the line, but he could also be a guy that if he's out there and Duran is overmatching the other front court, then he's a guy out there that could be sneaky in terms of getting you a couple buckets, some hustle plays, and maybe a couple threes. So I think, yeah, like this Dayton team doesn't go deep, but I think we're good with what we have. It's just I would like to see a little more consistency from our guards, and if they can all have it going, then obviously we know what Duran Holmes can bring. We know what Kobe Brea is going to bring every night, that three-point punch, 50% at least for his attempts. I'd like to see him get up more. But, yeah, so overall good stuff from this win. The Dayton Flyers win it 83-61 over the George Washington Revolutionaries. In terms of George Washington, I'll be brief here because we're going to get to the look around in the Atlantic 10. Darren Buchanan, man, I don't think he'll be a Revolutionary next year. I don't think he'll be a Rev. I mean, 13 and 8, almost perfect from the free throw line. Yeah, 3 or 4 from the free throw line. A forward who can really score it. Have yet to see kind of like a jumper from him or a mid-range or a 3-ball. So he obviously didn't take one tonight, but I thought he was really good. And for a freshman coming in here giving you 15 points a game as George Washington's basically second option, I think that kid is on to bigger and better things. I think somebody will throw the bag at him. We see all these rumors about whether Duran was going to get the bag and transfer somewhere else. Well, I think Darren Buchanan is going to be the next guy out of the Atlantic 10 to kind of transfer up, and because he's just so strong, and they can somebody at the Power 5 level or somebody really we could use him too when Duran gets out of here. So. Yeah, I thought Darren Buchanan played well. Let's talk about James Bishop. 10 points, 6 of 7 from the free throw line. So one of the keys to the game I said before the game was got to defend James Bishop without fouling. Now, Enoch had a foul on a 3, which obviously gave him 3 free throws. But I thought the Dayton's guards, like I said, they're off night. You come into the University of Dayton or they're coming into your crib and they're getting ready to defend. And that's what I love the most about this Dayton Flyers team. So 2 of 12 from one of the best scorers in the Atlantic 10. That's going to win you a lot of games. We see a ton of guards that can give you 30, that can give you 25, that can give you 20 in the Atlantic 10. Max Shulga got 25 tonight for VCU. Daryl Banks got 20. He hit 7 threes versus whoever they played a couple like last week or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, the Atlantic 10 is set up for Dayton to win it. Not just in the regular season, also in the Atlantic 10 tournament. Now, obviously, the history's there. Haven't won it since 2003. Can we shake that, please? Can we please shake that, by the way? I want to get that Atlantic 10 tournament win. All right, so let's do it this year. I think, obviously, hopefully, I want Richmond. I do. I want Richmond so bad. So, yeah, this Dayton team is a recipe for definitely rolling through that Atlantic 10 tournament because you have great guards in this league, but great guards that can get locked up by Enoch Cheeks and Javon Bennett and sometimes Kobe Elvis out there. That's where we're at. I really believe that. Guys are going to struggle. They're going to struggle guarding Duran Holmes, but we're going to make their guards struggle as well. So this defense is to die for. I love it. I love what we do. Force a lot of turnovers. Obviously, 5 of 29 is the bigger story from George Washington. They kind of looked like how Dayton looked versus Richmond in that first half. Like they couldn't buy a bucket. They were getting some open looks at some points. I thought we played great defense, but just in and out, missing shots, and Dayton ended up taking care of them. Like I said, once again, 83-61, the Dayton Flyers win it. I'm Chris King with the Cream City Crossovers unanimous decision tonight. It was a unanimous decision for UD. Win by 22. Obviously, you're going to get that. And hopefully there's plenty more UDs to come and plenty more big wins, big victories. Look, we've got 10 games left in the Atlantic 10, a couple of road tests, a couple of strong teams coming into the arena. St. Bonaventure on Friday coming into the arena, and they're good. They've got some great guards. They've got a good big in Chad Venning. So they're going to be a tough matchup as well. We'll get to that. But first, let's go to look around in the Atlantic 10 and college basketball. So finally, the moment you guys have been waiting for. I know I did a good job of teasing that, right? The big comeback win from St. Bonaventure. VCU loses 67-62. The Bonnies on top, as VCU actually led by 20 in this game. Right ahead of halftime, they were up 39-19. And St. Bonaventure went on a 7-0 run, 39-26, and you get 15 points from Daryl Banks, but the scoring was everywhere for St. Bonaventure. Kyrell Luke, 7 points, Chad Vennings, 11, and Mika Adams-Woods, the Cincinnati transfer, with 13 points. So this is a tough team that the Dayton Flyers are going to get ready to face on Friday. This is a team that can beat you in multiple ways. You've got two of the better bigs, one of the best front courts in the Atlantic 10 with the St. Bonaventure Bonnies, and you also have a lot of good guard play. It's interesting. Daryl Banks and Mika Adams-Woods are coming off the bench this season, I guess. So thing to keep an eye on when the second rotations come in. Those are two guys who can hurt you as well. So hopefully those guys aren't too overwhelming for this Dayton team. But, wow, what's going on with VCU? I mean, how do you blow that? How do you blow this game? Shot 37% from 3, 11 of 29. It had to be 13 turnovers. Yeah, that's not going to play. And they got scorched on the boards, 43-30. The St. Bonaventure Bonnies over the VCU Rams. Beat them by 13 on the rebounding battle. That's probably what ends up killing you in the long run if you can't grab a board. So another thing to keep an eye on for Friday, because we've seen when Dayton gets out-rebounded, they struggle. Northwestern, Houston, UMass. All those games, examples of being out-rebounded, and you lost 2 of them, you won 1 of them barely. And you had a big lead, and you almost choked it away because you couldn't get a rebound. So that's what I'm looking for on Friday when the St. Bonaventure Bonnies come into UD Arena. Look, if you're going to UD Arena on Friday night, please be louder than it was tonight. The energy was bad tonight. I mean, it's Tuesday night. I can't really fault you guys, and it's George Washington. Like, this isn't some world beater, but this is going to be a good one between the Dayton Flyers and the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. So Dayton obviously half game back of Richmond in second place. Loyola Chicago, they're playing right now too. Let me check that live score. 56-40 over the St. Louis Billikens. So Loyola Chicago probably they're sitting at 5-2, getting ready to go 6-2 in the Atlantic 10. So they'll be about a game behind the Dayton Flyers and game and a half behind first place in the Richmond Spiders. Yeah, Loyola Chicago, interesting that they've finally started to get it going. Des Watson, the transfer from Davidson, I know McKillop and them are probably pretty bitter he did that, transferring into the same league. But, you know, they've really started to get it going as of late. Braden Norris, we know he can do. Philip Alston, he's nice. Des Watson's got 9 so far in the second half. Braden Norris leading scorer with 14 against St. Louis Billikens. And yeah, so Loyola Chicago, that's also another building that the Dayton Flyers are going to have to go into and try to steal a game there. So you can't bring that effort, you can't bring that energy that you brought versus Richmond or didn't bring versus Richmond into that building as well. Let's get right into the standings. Want to talk a little bit more about the middle pack and where people can stand. So it's going to be VCU fell to 5-3. George Mason 4-3, UMass 4-4, And St. Bonaventure 4-4 now. So they obviously play a lot better at home. 9-2 at home, 1-4 away. So that's something that the Dayton Flyers do have going for them. That's why I say be loud, wear red, be loud, and let them know who's boss. I mean, this St. Bonaventure team beat us last year at home for them. And, they had an answer for Deron Holmes. They stopped him, and they outclassed us. Obviously, different team, better team that we're bringing in. They're kind of like the same team except the addition of Charles Pride, who was one of the better transfers in the portal this year from Bryant, as well as Mika Adams-Woods from Cincinnati. So they've got a couple new pieces on that roster as well. The Dayton Flyers, let's look ahead to the schedule. Obviously, Friday 10. That's what we're calling it. But we're moving into February. 7 games in February. This might be the toughest 4-game stretch that the Dayton Flyers will have to play this season. You got St. Bonaventure at home. Cool. Try to get that win, please. At St. Joe's. Now, I think St. Joe's is massively overrated because they have guards in this conference that, they're really good guards in Lynn Greer and Eric Reynolds. But outside of that, they don't really get much, Rasheer Fleming is one of the better guys on their team too, but outside of that, man, it's not much. So you should go in that game and win that game, especially when in the non-conference people were saying they were better than you. People were saying that the St. Joe's team was better than this Dayton team, even after the Dayton Flyers had beaten Cincinnati, SMU, LSU, St. John's. They were still talking a big game about the St. Joe's team, who beat an overrated Villanova team and beat a Princeton team, who is also overrated, who hasn't played anybody. So my point is, please beat the St. Joseph's Hawks and, the Lynn Greer Revenge Tour, stuff like that. Don't let those storylines get into your head. Please win that game. And then at VCU. Obviously, hostile environment, going back to Virginia where you had some of the worst basketball you've played all season, right? And ultimately, you dropped that one, so don't make that a habit. Do not make that like 2 in a row in the state of Virginia. Please don't. And then you got Duquesne at home, which will be a tough one, but, we historically play well versus Duquesne, but also historically play well versus Duquesne in our home building. And then Fordham comes into town, should win that one. George Mason away, so another building where the Dayton Flyers don't really play well. So we've got to put the history and the bad starts and the neck-and-neck games with lesser teams behind us, because that George Mason, I don't know if the atmosphere will be good, but that gym just haunts us. I remember in the 2020 season, they hung around tight with the Obi team. I think Dayton won that game by 5. So, yeah. And then Davidson at home. So a tough stretch in February. You got about 5 out of 7 that are not toss-ups, but games that you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's. You're going to have to show what you showed in Charleston. You're going to have to show what you showed against Cincinnati. Show what you showed against SMU, even though that was kind of a bad game. They just, Kobe Bryant. It's Kobe Bryant. But, yeah, and then you obviously round out March with home game with VCU, but you're going to Loyola, Chicago, and St. Louis first. So 10 games left for this Dayton team. I think you can go 10-0, but realistically, you want to be at 8-2, at least 8-2. That gets you comfortably into the into the NCAA tournament. That definitely gets you a double bye, and yeah. So that's what I'm looking for from this Dayton team. We'll see how the rest of the standings kind of shake up if Richmond drops one, and I think they will. Hopefully, I think that is a team that has had some bounces go their way, and they're finding a way to pull them out. But I don't think that'll be sustainable. So, all right. Let's read some of the comments. Brea hitting the step from the logo, not fair at all. Joel, thanks for the comment. Appreciate you. Yeah, he was unstoppable today. VCU will be good when healthy. A. Tracy said, Flyers dub, Cream City crossover, my guys. Appreciate you. VCU will be good when healthy. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think A. Tracy, I think Max Shulga still can provide a good punch. Bairstow, he's a good player, and then Joe Bamasil, obviously he's a former Atlantic 10 guard who can put up 20 off the bench. So I think this VCU team will be good. But I think, it's just you gotta be careful with those environments, man. Like the away environments are going to be tough. Flyers dub, yes sir. Cream City Crossover. I know Trey Crosby III, the host of the Milwaukee Bucks postgame show, is in here. He's always on the Deron Holmes props, so I get him right. Landon King says, don't know if I was the only one, but I felt a weird vibe in the building today. Felt off tonight. Yeah, I mean from TV, from what it looked like, it was, the energy was not up. It was not up at all. And yeah, so hopefully that is different when a good St. Bonaventure team comes into the building on Friday. Let's look around college basketball now. Top 25. Did Marquette blow that game? They didn't. But you know what? They didn't have Cam Jones tonight, but Tyler Kulik with 32 once again, All-American player, first team All-American. Probably the best point guard in all of college basketball. Filled that void without Cam Jones tonight. Eric Dixon had 24 for Villanova. They tried to come back. Marquette had a double-digit lead in the second half, but Villanova put up 49 in the second half. So Villanova, they've been trash this year, and I don't know what it is. They've got some players. They got Tyler Burton from Richmond. They've got Justin Moore, who's one of the better players in all of college basketball. They've got Eric Dixon, one of the best. So yeah, Marquette. That's a good win. It's always tough to play at Villanova. Big East games away are tough, but yeah. They were able to pull that one out, so good stuff there from Marquette. Let's take a look at some other scores in top 25. South Carolina. How about South Carolina and Meechie Johnson and Miles Studi, who ended up giving them, I guess, the go-ahead bucket. 63-59 over Tennessee. Dalton Connect had 31 of Tennessee's 59 points. The fifth-ranked team in the country goes down to South Carolina. South Carolina, that's two big wins in a row, and they're not even ranked, but they're 18-3 with wins over Kentucky and away at Tennessee. So you're starting to look at this South Carolina team as a legit NCAA tournament. I guess you could call them maybe not a Cinderella, but I guess you could call them a threat to some of the lower seeds, like a Dayton. If we're able to get a 4 seed and we see, or a 5 seed, and we see a 12 seed 6 seed, and we get an 11 seed South Carolina, I'm clutching my pearls, man. I'm clutching my pearls because that's a good team, and they just benefit from being in the SEC and playing these tough games every night. It can really boost your resume or it can hurt your resume, and we're seeing it benefit them. And what a turnaround for South Carolina. I mean, last year they were god-awful with Gigi Jackson and Meechie Johnson. They were god-awful. And today they turned up. And they've turned up this season. Let's see some more scores. Illinois taking care of Ohio State, guys. Ohio State, they're struggling. They are struggling. Illinois beats them 87-75 at home. They just lost by 25 to Northwestern, who we kept it tight with. This is what we do. They lost to Nebraska, beat Penn State in there, but lost to Michigan, lost to Wisconsin. They've now lost 6 of their last 7. Yeah, 6 of their last 7. Ohio State really struggling in the Big Ten. And, I'm surprised. Hey, this might be in terms of coaching and in terms of who's going to get fired. I know we're talking about, Travis Ford at St. Louis, but hey, Chris Holtmann may be next. So yeah, that's most of what I saw in college basketball tonight. Let's see any other eye-popping results. Colorado State leads San Diego State by 10 at half. So interesting. Oklahoma beating Kansas State by 10. This is the top 25. I mean, not much else interesting outside of that. Utah State up on San Diego State by 18 or by 8. Excuse me. NC State, that's another team that could sneak in the NCAA tournament. Michigan State down to Michigan at the half, 35-33. This Michigan State team has got to figure it out because they've had multiple losses on the season and it's not getting any better. They're 12-8 right now, and if they lose this one to Michigan, they're going to have a tough time getting into the NCAA tournament, especially with some of their losses. They lost to James Madison. TCU beating Texas Tech. Texas Tech, why are they ranked 15th? Why is Texas Tech ranked 15th? They just went 0-2 last week. Okay, they went 1-2 last week. Okay, they beat BYU, but all right. So they lost to TCU. That's a team that Dayton should jump in the rankings if they take care of business on Saturday or on Friday. And then outside of that, yeah, not much else. So once again, this has been a Cream City Media Group production, the Unanimous Decision. I'm Chris King, your host. We'll be back tomorrow for the Milwaukee Bucks postgame show. Make sure you guys tune in, man. These Milwaukee Bucks postgame shows, we have a lot of fun, and it's not just me blabbling into the depths of the earth, right? It's two really good co-hosts, Trey Crosby, John Tyus, who really do a great job of analyzing the Milwaukee Bucks, and I try to do my part. So we do a good job. Seeing some consistent growth in that channel, and on this channel, keep subscribing, keep watching, keep sharing your comments about my Dayton show and some of the things you guys want to see, some of the things you don't want to see, and appreciate everybody listening. It's been a pleasure, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling, baby. 17-3, the Dayton Flyers beat the George Washington Revolutionary. This is gonna be so tough to get used to. 83-61 at home. We're back at it. Friday night we'll have postgame for the Dayton Flyers versus the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. Once again, I'm Chris King. This is the Unanimous Decision, and we're back tomorrow, Cream City Crossover. Stay tuned if you like the NBA. Chris King, out. Stay